Last night, I had the very great pleasure of finally watching one of my all time favorite films again. I've been meaning to do it for quite some time, but I hadn't really watched it all the way through in years, honestly. Like every time I just kind of like sit down to do it, like something comes up or I don't want to sit through it all, but like I sat and watched all of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the first time in a long while. Okay, so this and my the second film, Chamber of Secrets, are actually two of my favorite films ever made. Like I think the acting is sublime. I think the designs are great. I love the colors. The characters are fantastic. The script is great. Like they all have like great endings and great climaxes. Like, these are like this is like peak fiction in general, obviously. And like, the books are, better, as books always are. But at the end of the day, like I really do enjoy these two movies every time I come back to them. And it's such a shame at what they did with the sequels and how they got like they became more like westernized, and they started becoming increasingly generic with like the stupid outfits. Like remember when like Hermione was like running around in the pink hoodie of power, right? Like you're just kind of like you look at like what the series became and you just kind of shake your head at it. Like it lost all of its visual identity, it lost everything that made it great. It completely tried to deviate from the books and to like do everything they could to make it as woke as possible at the time. And there are shades of that in the original two films where like Hermione is like way too perfect and like Ron is treated like a joke character. Like it's embarrassing in that sense, but like if you go into it and treating it like its own thing, it's really not that bad. It's not that offensive, and it really does just kind of like feel like it mostly was done to like service the plot and to keep things moving and to like not not make the same mistakes that a lot of other films have made, right? Like I feel like these movies, most of the changes they made to the original book did make sense. I feel like they're entertaining. I feel like in a lot of ways the kids act more like actual kids. Like Harry Potter. I love the Harry Potter books, but like in a lot of ways, the first two books, especially the first, they come off as kind of cartoonish in a way with like their exaggerated descriptions of things. Here it's a lot more grounded and it feels like a lot more alive. You really get more of a sense of like the culture of the UK at the time. You get all this like, great like, all these great sequences, right, of like the Dursleys mistreating Harry, of it coming off as like their everyday routine. It just feels so well handled. It's just phenomenal. It's impeccable. They really killed it with this movie. And watching it again, it really is kind of odd because I think this is the first time I've seen it as an adult, or the first time I've seen it in the past 10 years, I should say. So, like, it's really weird kind of like looking back on it and thinking how young everyone is, and like thinking about, like, how things changed over time and how the movies progressively got worse. Where like, Harry became more of an asshole. Hermione just became too glamorized. Ron just kind of exists, and you had situations like, Dumbledore getting recast, unfortunately, and like, all the stupid redesigns to the castle. Like, there are like things about this movie that I don't like, and most of them just hinge on the fact that we never really got our 7 Harry Potter movies. Like they couldn't even get that right. They gave us 8, and like Deathly Hallows Part 2 was complete garbage. They couldn't like cohesively make a 7-part film series with these actors and keep them consistently good. And that's very, very unfortunate, and it's something that I like have a lot of resentment for, and I don't understand how the ball was dropped so hard. And I especially dislike how a lot of people won't even admit that the ball has even been was even dropped. Okay, people just kind of ignore you when you talk about like how bad Goblet of Fire was, or like how they just kind of glaze through like Order of the Phoenix's plot. Like there's so much they do wrong and yet like you just don't get an acknowledgement out of that out of normies. And I do think the core problem is that like normies don't read the books. You know, when you're dealing with like the mass audience, when you're dealing with like the lowest common denominator, when you're dealing with like absolute scum, like what they end up doing inevitably is that they just kind of like sit around and then like endlessly ask questions that could be fixed, that could be solved if you just picked up a book. You know, like, who's that? What's he doing? What's the lore? Like, is Snape a good guy or a bad guy? Like, if you've seen like the average normie watching these movies, like they really don't get it at all. Like they really think they're being clever, you know, making these observations, you know, like trying to like downplay the greatest fantasy story ever written. Okay, trying to like, you know, make themselves heard without having to think. You know what I mean? Like they are celebrating their lack of thought. They are celebrating how ignorant they are. And it's I'm sure it's something that like affects like all manner of life and like all entertainment to a certain degree, but like I feel like it's especially bad with Harry Potter specifically because like everyone knows the books are better. Okay, everyone says this all the time. It's like the first thing that anybody says when talking about the movies is that like the books are better, but the movie did like again like this is like a commonly held thing, but like no matter how much we talk about this and no matter how central of of a point it is when talking about how the Potter movies failed, these people will never ever pick up a book. You know, they'll try and tell you that like they can't read or they can't do it, they can't find the time, like they'll try and find some excuse, and it's like it's something that like absolutely needs to get called out. Like it is downright ridiculous. Like if you don't, if you're not willing to read the books, like why are you even talking about Harry Potter? In my opinion, like why are you even watching these movies? Like these are adaptations of a beloved book series, and yet you can't be bothered to like read the book. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it's absolutely, I think, the worst thing that could have ever happened to these books because for a lot of these normies, like the movies are Harry Potter. You know, the later movies defined the series' visual style. It's defined its identity. It's defined its personality. You know, and like the series has become completely unrecognizable because of like the filmmaker's desire to like warp and twist like J.K. Rowling's vision into being some woke parody of itself. You know, filled to the brim with diversity and like homosexuality. Okay, it is just insane, like what we've seen the filmmakers try to pull over the past like decade or so. You know, with things like Fantastic Beast or like the upcoming HBO series. Like you know, there are just so many things that just antagonize everybody. That like nobody's happy about this. Nobody wants to see it, and yet like this is like the reoccurring thing each and every time is that like we have to deal with people who are too stupid to understand like the problems with this product that they're consuming, and it's like it's very frustrating, and it's something that like I have a lot of contempt for, and it it should be called out. It's something that like I think is actively making everything worse. It's not just Harry Potter, but like it's a really common thing is that people take pride in their ignorance. They take pride in being retarded, and it's just something that like just positively drives me nuts. It is it is embarrassing how the masses like act about this. I'm sure the books are gonna be like all time classics for people who actually read, but like I think when it comes to normies, they're gonna keep doing this thing where they pretend that the movies are the definitive version, and it's very unfortunate in that sense. Where like you know the first two movies, which I genuinely love and will always go back to, I love those movies more than anything. And yet, at the same time, they are actively standing in the way of like the objective fact that the books are better. Like, because of these movies existing, the Harry Potter books have been diminished. And that's just a fact that we can't get around. Like, the simple fact of the matter is, if the movies didn't exist, Harry Potter would be a more cohesive, understood niche thing for people who actually know how to read, essentially. Like, I don't like the fact that Harry Potter is so mainstream. I don't like the fact that people who read these books are functionally retarded. I don't like the fact that, like, this has become like an issue that we have to talk about. Like, it's something that needs to come up more. Is that, like, the Harry Potter movies, no matter how good they are, have actively harmed the Harry Potter brand.